Welcome to Mrs. Peach Thrifty Living. This is going to be a little bit different. I'm trying to do a voiceover. I was at Carl's Jr., and it was so loud in there that I decided I probably should try a voiceover. My daughter gave me this book for Mother's Day, This Life of Mine, and I opened it up and went through quite a few of the pages. There's still quite a bit more to do on this, and I didn't write in this, but I talked about some of this, and I thought maybe even you could do this with a piece of paper at home if you wanted. There's all kinds of subjects in here, like the beginning of your life, love, your body, food you like. I'm just going to be covering some of these, and um, I did this there, but it was so loud I decided to try it again. So I may be getting a little off. I thought this was kind of interesting how to use this book. It says to just relax in a well-lit place, or make sure right when you have food in your belly. And it said a take a deep breath. And somewhere it said something about finding a relaxing place. And I thought, well, yes, usually I'm at the donut shop when I do a lot of my writing. It's a place I enjoy a lot. Said something about having a cup of tea and a cookie. It was just an interesting book, and it really spurred my memories and thoughts. Of course, you can fill it in, all like your name and the story behind your name and all that. And somewhere I told a story about that, and I'm not sure whether it was right here or not. So I'm going to wait, and maybe I'll tell you or not. Okay, yes. My mom didn't know what to name me, so my aunt had a name picked out for her daughter that was coming a few months later, and so she offered to give my mom one of the names. So I got my cousin Velma's name, one of her names. So that I thought was interesting, and you can see the family tree. You can fill that in, information about your family, and I'm just trying to remember what I said, because some of the stories, okay, quirky things about my family. I told about my dad. My dad was at a wedding, my cousin's wedding one day or evening, and they were in the backyard. It was an outdoor reception, and people were drinking, and my dad was total against alcohol. And he went and sat down by somebody and started quoting a scripture about a wine being a strong drink and a mocker, which is true. There's a lot of truth in it, and probably if we stayed away from it, would all be a little bit better off. You certainly wouldn't have to worry about being an alcoholic for sure. And then let's see, a quirky detail about each of my grandparents. My one grandpa, before he came to church, he was really loved his tobacco, and he had to have it. And if he didn't have it, then Granny would have to go digging in his pockets, trying to find a little bit of tobacco where she could get it for him, to satisfy him till he could get some. And another story about my other grandpa is they're the ones that had the 18 children. Well, they had about 8 or 9 children when one of their children was born January 1st, 1921, and he took the older kids, Grandpa took the older kids to the county fair, and they were having a contest. Whoever had the biggest family, they would win some kind of prize. Well, my grandpa said, well, I have 9 children here, but 21 is at home. Well, you can imagine the weird thoughts that brought up. Well, they named him my uncle 21. And Later on, he went by the name Buster, and later on, as an adult, he had it legally changed, and he no longer was 21. I always loved that story. I thought that was a great story. And then, let's see, games we played as we were growing up. We did Chinese checkers and checkers. We didn't do a lot of games. Of course, we sang and, of course, went to church. And it was just a 1950s family. My early dreams that my family supported, they were always supportive of whatever. And then there's pictures, things we did after school. We was just hang around, and we had to do our chores at the house. And we always, and at that time, we'd come in and change our clothes. We didn't wear our school clothes at home. They were saved for school. Summers, what we do when we had summer, we went to camp meeting, as I've told you, and youth camp. And when Daddy was a carpenter, so at times he was laid off. And at those times around here, we had peaches and prunes to pick. And so we would go and pick peaches and prunes. And we got to keep the money we earned. And we'd stop off at the river and cool off and wash the peach fuzz off. Our vacations were normally those that I mentioned before, the camp meetings. We didn't go up in the hills and go camping. And then we would go to family, we would drive back to Oklahoma to our families. Let's see, childhood memories that stand out. I talked about we had a flood here, and one time it was Christmas, and they were expecting the flood to either break its banks on our side or the other, and it did on the opposite side, but they didn't know, so we were all out at the hill at the Air Force Base to be protected in case it did come. And it did break, but it didn't on our side. And that was and several people did drown. That was sad time, real sad time. School, we went to all of the local schools, and I always had good teachers. And my favorite subjects was homemaking. I never was really good at sports. I did better walking later in life, but I just really wasn't into sports, more into the music and the singing than that. And awkward moments at school. I told about when I was reading in front of the classroom. I think I was about 11, and I was reading about, it was something to do with science, and it was talking about some blood or whatever, and I fainted. That was so embarrassing at that time. And I don't know why I did, but I did, and I'll never forget it. Somebody mentioned that not long ago. We always had a lot of friends. We hung out with the kids at church and a few of the kids at school, and we had our circle of friends, which was always wonderful. And this book just brings back a lot of memories. I hope you'll like and subscribe. I hope if you enjoyed this, let me know. There's more to this book. God bless you, and come again.